Hello everyone, welcome to today's session, which is all about Roman jewellery, and in particular the Roman armilla bracelet and bangles. The armilla bracelet was what was given to soldiers for heroism, for their gallantry, so it was a sign of how well they'd done perhaps in battle. We're going to make our own version of that in a moment out of paper. This is an example in paper of a bangle that a lady may have worn. They often wore them twisted like this, so that it looked rather like a snake, as if it twisted around their arm. I'm just being careful because if you haven't got any gold coloured paper, you might want to make one out of cardboard, which is what I'm wearing here. I'll take it off for the moment, then we can look at it in more detail. I've also got on the table some modern equivalents of these bracelets. If we look at these, can you see that they are made of twisted pieces of metal so that you've got two colours? Here's another one, and you can see slightly different colours because of different metals. I bought those in Kenya going back many years ago, and these are modern equivalents of what we would probably call a torque. Torque simply means twisted, and it's often spelt in different ways. Originally, a torque in Roman times was a larger version of this, twisted as a necklace. But over time, the word torque has been used for bracelets, worn again both lower down above the wrist, at the top of their arm, as well as a necklace. Now you'll already see, I hope, that my bracelets that I've created, an armilla, do begin to look a little bit like snakes. And I've also got a modern version of that here. That completely closes over. But again, it's the same idea that it looks like a snake. I've particularly shown you that because although this is a modern version, it's got some precious stones on. Well, unfortunately, they're not really precious, but in Roman times, they would have been precious stones. So really wealthy ladies would have had expensive jewellery. We've already said they will probably wear several bangles altogether. So they may well have had several small ones. They may have had one of these higher up, but they like to wear their jewellery. I think it was also because it was one of the few things that Roman ladies did own. They were their own possessions. So the more you had, the more of a sign of wealth it was. I've also got here a genuine Roman ring. I don't know if you can see that there. And that is a real Roman ring and would have been worn by an ancient Roman. It's a bit too small for my fingers, but nevertheless, it's marvellous to think that at one time this was worn by a Roman going about his or her business each day. Amazing that. Okay, let's have a look at how we're going to make our Roman bracelets. Let's put those on one side. I'll make this one first. With this, it's very simple as long as you've got a pipe cleaner. And I know not everybody has, that's why I've got various other methods, okay? But we start off, if possible, with a shiny piece of metallic paper. But again, it just depends what you've got in your house. You could use ordinary white paper and perhaps colour it, or you could start off with a coloured paper. It's entirely up to you. This is exactly how we started with the wreath. So you need a piece about that big and that wide. And again, you can see that I bent it down the middle. In the middle, I've then put my pipe cleaner. I've stuck it down with sellotape at each end to hold it in place. I then put some glue, some Pritt stick, around the edges. Remember to leave a little bit at either side here so that it joins well. So put a little bit around and on the other side just to hold it, and then press it down to seal it. Now you then need to work on it a little bit to bend it to get it in the shape that you want. If I were, or perhaps better start with this one first, if I were to make the armilla, the one that was given to soldiers for bravery, that tended to be just bent round. So you would just bend it, and you can see here how I've curved it round. I've added a head and tail to make it look like a snake afterwards, but you can see that that's just bent over like that, okay? And then it fits quite easily over your arm to be worn, okay? This particular bangle, which is more likely to have been worn by a lady, needs a little bit more working on it. So you keep bending it round and round until you get it into a sort of spiral shape. You may need to bend it a few times to get it like that, but once you've done it, that will fit much easier over your arm. So you can see how it goes, okay? And you can put it right at the top of your arm if you preferred. To give it its decoration, you need to cut out the heads of the snakes first. So draw a sort of egg shape. Again, I'm using metallic paper so that it looks like real metal, but it doesn't matter, you can use any paper, even plain will be fine. And then I've drawn a circle for the tail. The reason I've drawn a circle is because I'm going to put a spiral on it. So I'm going to start in the middle and go around and out. Can you see? There. And then you simply stick that on one end of your bracelet, whichever one you're doing. And then for the head, cutting out the egg shape, and I'm going to put 2 eyes. The reason I'm using a biro is because ordinary felt pen won't work on the shiny paper. So that gives you an idea of the head. And then again, just simply stick the head on the other end of the bracelet, like so. If you haven't got any pipe cleaners and metallic paper, don't worry, you can use some cardboard. The thicker the better, but it doesn't have to be. Whatever you've got, as we used the other day, it could just be a cereal packet. This is some corrugated paper off another package, so that's come in handy. Can you see what I've done? As I did with the tail, which I decorated my other bracelets with, I've drawn a spiral. I put a dot roughly in the centre. Let's see, I've got one here. I've already started it in pencil, but I'm going to go over it with a felt pen so that, let's use this one so you can see it clearly. So I start about in the middle, and then I just draw around. I have to say this is not very dark. Can you see in there? Yeah, I think that's clear enough. Okay, and in the middle, that's where the little head's going to be. So again, I've drawn a couple of eyes and the front like that. Now, what you can do next, let's get a brighter pen because that's really not showing up very well. See what we've got here. Let's use the purple like the one on mine. You can then start doing some crosses to do a pattern around and gradually work inwards. When you've done that, you take a pair of scissors and you follow all the way around the line of the spiral. Takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it. Yeah, it's quite tricky as you get nearer and nearer to the centre. Get the idea, you can see it already beginning to spiral outwards. And going back to this one, you can see that you put it over like so, and you can make your, oops, let's put it that way so you can see the head. Okay, if you wanted, you could even cover your cardboard one with some tin foil. It may be easier once you've cut it to put the tin foil on, and you could put it on in little strips. So you could take a bit and fold it over. You don't even need to glue it, because if you put it enough on, if it's long enough, it will fit over and bend over like so. Okay. And again, you can either just use felt pens for the head, but certainly if you've used tin foil, you're going to either need one of these pens, a biro, or you could stick on a separate head and a separate little tail. Oh, you can't see that there, can you? Oops. Add those on so that you have the same effect as the ones we first looked at. Okay, and I think we've covered everything. Just let me check the board to see. Yep. And I think I've mentioned that torques are really twisted pieces of metal, often thought of as necklaces. The armillas were given out for gallantry, for heroism, but that lots of ladies in ancient Roman times loved their jewellery. So nothing much has changed there, has it? And these are the things that you will need: card, scissors, glue, pens, pencils, shiny paper and pipe cleaner if you've got them. Again, it's over to you. See what you've got around your house that your parents will let you use. Have a great time, and I'll see you next session. Bye for now.